Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Darshini. I'm the managing editor for the Environmental Reporting Collective. And we feel that this is a very important conversation to be had as AI is catching on and data centers are exploding everywhere. Um, so I just wanted to give a brief intro. Thank you to all four speakers who are here. We're joined by Samsir and Monica, who are the journalists behind this particular report, as well as Naman and Janvi from the Internet Freedom Foundation. They have been brilliant in helping us through this recent, giving us advice in this recent incident. So very happy to have them here to give their opinion and their advice. So essentially, this report came out of a series of investigative reporting that we did called the Dirty Data Collaboration, which came out in February. And the purpose of this report was to talk about the environmental and human impact of data center expansions outside of the US and outside of China. So this involved many reporters in South America, in Europe, and in Asia. And in the course of doing this, Monica and Samshir produced brilliant reports, including the current report that we're going to talk about, which involved a Google data center coming up in Visag and what that was doing to the Dalit community and the allegations that they had made. In May 19th, we published they produced a video and they uploaded a video, which the ERC also shared. And that produced 2.4 million views. So obviously this traction is a very important issue. Unfortunately, 3 days later, we received notice that the video was blocked in India by Meta under instructions of the Indian authorities under the, if I'm not mistaken, the Information Technology Act. And so we're here to talk about the story, the impact of this story, and how this kind of blocking, this kind of going around the legal process by the authorities to block these kind of reports, the impact that this can have on public interest reporting, not just for data center, but down the line as well. So with that, I would like to pass on to our speakers for them to introduce themselves. Please go ahead. Samsir, would you like to start?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Shamshir Yusuf. I'm an independent journalist based out of Bangalore. I've been reporting on environment, politics, science for the last 15, actually 18 years. And this particular project is mine and Monica's second collaboration with the ERC. We did a series on sand mining a few years back and on the data centers. This year.
And Shamshir, could you just pass on to the next person? Thank you.
I'm here already.
Monica.
Yeah. Hi, folks. My name is Monica, and I am an independent journalist based in Goa, India. And I have been freelancing since 2014, and before that, I was a journalist with leading Indian English dailies. And looking back, I think in my freelance career, one thread I have come to see, which is persistent, is what I have come to call as issues of marginalization. And in this data center project reporting, that is what we were looking at. We were looking at, so Dirty Data as a project investigates the hidden cost, the social and environmental cost of AI infrastructure. And AI is presented as cloud-based and hence clean. But every data center occupies physical land and consumes enormous resources and affects real communities. And that's when we as journalists came in, because we wanted to sort of look at those costs on the ground. And Janvi, if you could take over from here.
Thank you, Monica. Hi, everyone. I'm Janvi. I'm a lawyer and I contribute at the Internet Freedom Foundation as the policy counsel. We work on various topics with regards to freedom of speech and expression, Recently, we've also been working on the right to be forgotten, and various cases around these topics are something that interests me as well. Yeah, that's a little bit about myself. I would like to now pass on to my colleague Naman.
Thank you, Janvi. I hope I'm completely audible. I am, first of all, thank you for hosting this. It's really great that we are doing this. It's important that we put the word out. Furthermore, I am Naman. I am a practicing advocate based in Delhi, and I work with Internet Freedom Foundation. As a litigation counsel, I'm we provide one of type of work we do is we provide pro bono legal services to journalists, media publishers, and others. We sort of help them navigate the Indian legal judicial system and what issues they are facing. As Janvi already mentioned, that one of the wing is policy and another wing is uh, litigation, and I'm one of the members of it. And thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
All right. So first, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the story itself for Shamsher and Monica, what it was like to cover that. And then afterwards, we'll bring it up to as much as we can say about the legal case, which I know isn't much, but also just broader implications. And then afterwards, to all our guests, thank you for coming today. If you have a question, then you can just like jot it down and then raise your hand, and we'll try and address all of them at the end. And if you feel like it's something that's relevant to what's being said now, you can always like type into the chat. That will make for a livelier discussion as well, just like these parallel trains of thought. So Shamsher and Monica, I guess it's nice to see you again, especially after your story has blown up. So I guess would also like to give some thanks to the Indian government, because I know ERC's marketing budget wasn't that high. When you were on the ground, what was it like reporting in those communities that are on the front lines, especially in terms of marginalization? How did the local residents respond to your reporting? Did they know what was going on? Did they like seem like they couldn't talk about it? What was the atmosphere? If you could paint a picture.
Yeah, thanks, Clarissa. And it's really nice to see you again after a long while. Yeah, and we are glad that there is a conversation about data centers and AI infrastructure in India in general, but this is not the part we would have preferred. We would have liked, and I think people are willing to have that conversation anyway, and that's the reason why the reel like gathered the kind of attention that it did. So I think a lot of people are interested in these stories. We just happen to have the kind of resources put together by the ERC to be able to go and gather a lot of these stories. So first of all, the Google data center was not the only story that Shamsher and I covered for this story. We traveled to Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh, three states in India, because Mumbai and Chennai are two of the largest data center hubs, existing data center hubs in India. So it was important for us to look at Mumbai and Chennai, Navi Mumbai specifically. And we chose Vishakhapatnam only because Google at that point had announced this massive data center, this sort of unheard of scale. And it was supposed to be their largest hub outside of the US. And in India, we had not heard of this scale. And that's why we thought of looking at Vishakhapatnam as well. And we assumed that when we go to report in the communities, a lot of people would not be aware of what data centers are, what they actually do. And in a lot of cases, that was true. A lot of complaints about people's loss of resources were general. They were talking about their end of the story, which is what we were there for. And their anger was not directed a lot of times at data centers because they didn't know who was the end consumer. And that shows a little, not so much about the information that people lack, it also shows the lack of transparency in how the whole supply chain works. Because we never know where the power is coming from, where the water is coming from for a particular infrastructure. But in Vishakhapatnam, in Tarluvada village, where the Google data center story is set, there were there are three parts of this data center. The physical infrastructure is coming in three villages in and around Vishakhapatnam. And Tarluvada is, it looks like it's going to be the primary hub. And we went there. Everybody knew what a data center is. Some right, some misinformation, but everybody had heard of a data center. There was an active conversation about data center because land acquisition for the Google's project was underway. And we conducted the ground reporting in January, so we would really request you to bear that in mind, that it's an evolving story. And our report, the video report that was published in February and later was published as a reel, that shows what we documented in January. And now the situation has changed quite substantially. But what we have documented is, so right now, a lot of the land for the project has been acquired. But why this video documentation remains crucial, I think, is that it documents the process, how it was done. If I dare say, I say how the consent was manufactured, it remains a living document of that, regardless of the acquisition status. Shimshir, would like to add something to it?
Yeah, and
Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, I was just saying that in particular, the communities that, whose land was being acquired, most of it were from Dalit farmers. Dalits are, of course, the lowest in the caste hierarchy in India. A lot of our reporting, I mean, when we report on environmental issues, you always see that there is a caste angle, even with the, when we did the sand mining series with the ERC a couple of years back. We noticed that there was definitely a caste angle in terms of whose land was being taken away for illegal sand mining, who was at sort of at the receiving end of this environmental destruction. And here, when we came to, I mean, it was surprising to us, but even in this Google story, that was sort of in a different way. Again, Dalit lands were targeted. And I mean, there are many reasons why. I think one of the reasons is that it's actually the easiest land to acquire because these lands were never, I mean, they were allotted to these communities, but there were many restrictions that were placed on them, in terms of who you can't sell this land. You have to take permissions for a lot of things. But they held it for 50 years. It was a jungle where, I mean, in a video, we have this one woman who talks about how it was backbreaking work for years to clear that land, to make it, cultivable. They planted mango and cashew and tea and many other. And so the government can actually acquire this land for very cheap prices. In fact, the compensation which they had given and which many have now, as Monica was talking about, has accepted the compensation is magnitudes, of lower than what actually the market price is in that particular region. It's about, we were looking at some of these land transactions that were happening in the vicinity of that region. And they're 3 to 4 times higher than what these Dalit farmers are actually receiving. And this is a tactic that we have seen in many, many stories. We did a story a couple of years back on the nuclear power project in largest nuclear power project again, just supposed to be at that time, in the west coast of India. And again, the government uses, it has eminent domain, it has powers that can take away land from communities by certain tactics which in the Google case, for instance, communities were worried that if they did not accept the compensation, then they would lose both land and compensation. They did not have the wherewithal to mount a legal fight uh, against this. Your neighbors start accepting compensation, then the pressure increases on you, and that's what I think has happened in this particular case. Uh, so yeah, and I think it's a very tricky thing. How a lot of people talk about how these communities are now accepted compensation. They have sort of uh, you know, but you have to remember that these are the people at the lowest strata of society. I mean, for them, some compensation is still better than no compensation. But for a company like Google to sort of be involved in such uh, such a process was quite surprising to me. But I guess ultimately also not too surprising.
Yeah,
Monica,
it's such a big name, right? For them to be associated with this. How did you guys realize when it got blocked? Like, what was that moment like?
The funny thing is, I deleted Instagram a couple of weeks before ERC published this rule. So I had no idea about anything that was going on. Once the reel did really take off, and we saw a lot of comments, I think, as much as we like to hate on a lot of these social platforms, but they're also very powerful mediums for these stories to get to. And I think it resonated with a lot of people. And there were a lot of comments that were really understanding of what these communities are facing. And there is some sort of gratification in the sense that, okay, we could take this story to so many people. But then when it got blocked again, then, it was sort of, it was a little confusing because usually our stories are, not read by many people, not seen by many people. And the one time that it actually sort of, not one time, but yeah, one of the few times that it actually did take off. Personally, it didn't affect me, but I think these stories definitely need to be told. Monica?
Yeah, I think it is, of course, a question of press freedom. But at that moment, the first thing I felt was that voices of Paila Konnamma, who is speaking in the video, and Konru Ganesh. Why would anybody sort of block their voices? This is the only mode of sort of communication they have. The governments, the corporates, they have all the powers at their disposal. They have media teams and communications teams, and the people in the villages, once in a while, a journalist probably or a content creator goes and asks them a question, and they get a chance to say their piece. And why would anybody block their voices?
Yeah, and just to add, there was, alongside ours, there was a story in Frontline by a reporter called Bhaskar Baswa, who reported also on the sort of the injustice that these Dalit communities face. But otherwise, broadly, nobody was reporting on this. I think we were maybe one of the first video people who went there with, recording these people to hear them in their own voices. And I think that's what really resonated. And then, when somebody does go and report and then, it gets taken down, it is disheartening in that sense. Because, media is, the local reporting on the Google Vizag project has been so restrained, because I have seen many instances of where stories have been taken down by, newspapers that are, say, 100 years old. They have been taken down voluntarily. This is self-censorship, that not the government taking down. And subsequent to our post, there were a lot of posts again on the Google, by again content creators, by human rights organizations, a lot of them have been taken down. I think probably it runs into like 50 to, I mean, probably around 100 or something posts that have been taken down, uh, which have been critical. And I think the takedown itself has, caused so much of an uproar that I think the government has now eased. Uh, they have stopped for it. And now we do see a lot of communities. I mean, at least in urban, educated citizens questioning these projects very, at a level which I'm surprised, because it's about water usage, power usage. The environmental clearances in India. I mean, there are so many loopholes that companies get away with sort of anything. And what what this particular data center, we don't really understand what is happening because the transparency has been so low in terms of how they're going to pool these data centers, where is the power going to be generated from, where it is going to be sourced from. And it's typical of most industries, but in this particular case, in the case of this Google data center, we do see a lot of sweeping now from citizens, which actually is quite heartening to see.
Yeah, okay. So it's not just you, it's kind of like this whole chilling effect happening around, even by people themselves, just like self-censoring. So I guess just going back to what you said earlier, do you think that the fact that it's the most marginalized, like how caste plays a role in this? And just more how else it manifests, I think, in the way that the story is being perceived.
Yes, Clarissa, on the question of caste, like Shamsheed mentioned that any story we talk about, we always do find a caste angle, whether it's human trafficking, always, like without a doubt, involves caste. And so this land was given to these families, these Dalit families, 50 years ago by the government for a singular reason, that these families were landless. And extensive checks were done. And that's when they were allocated these lands. And they have held on to these lands for 50 years. There must be a reason this land is bringing something good to them. And that's why they are holding on to these lands. And the government used, so when these lands are, a technical term is assignment. So these assigned lands cannot be sold, cannot be transferred. And the government used this, now use this clause as a loophole. So because the people could not sell these lands, this land acquisition sort of became the only legal way to make any money off this land. And then there were misinformation campaigns, and there were outright threats by people in the local governments, as well as some local politicians. People there tell us, when we were reporting in January, people were telling us that they were saying that land would, if some people take compensation, which they had already agreed to, and if you don't, your land would be put under such a clause where you will lose out on compensation, but the government will go ahead with acquisition in any case. So they were scared of that. That, as Shamsheed mentioned, that they would lose the land as well as compensation. And the reporting was not just restrained, it was euphoric in favor of the data center when the project was first announced. In fact, there was a fight on X, formerly Twitter, between the IT ministers of Andhra Pradesh and the neighboring Karnataka, which is known as an IT hub in India, about, oh, Karnataka, you lost out on the Google project to Andhra Pradesh, and there were jibes exchanged based on that. So it was a pride project, and that's how it was. That was the dominant narrative, that people of Andhra Pradesh, people of Taraluwada should be really proud that Google has chose them, their lands, like instead of going anywhere else in the world. And there were no conversations about the public decision making that in a lot of other countries where Google had been kicked out by the by residents and their vote. But people were finding out information on their own. Some of them were right. They had concerns not just about land loss. They had concerns about power and water. And but they also were talking about the noise pollution. Some of them did mention radiation, which we haven't seen as evidence based, but they did have concerns. The point is that nobody sort of clarified anything on those concerns, and the Dalit land was being acquired, and Dalits were actively kept out of decision making. In the video, also, one woman mentions, and a lot of people told us, that the village has a ward committee. To pass any resolution, you need the committee. And the committee has only 2 Dalit members. Both of them were kept out of the meeting where the resolution was passed. So these are the kind of questions that we were asking.
Yeah, and sorry, go on.
No, and just to add to Monica's point, there are these states competing to build these data centers in their states. I mean, one of the reasons why, so in Visakhapatnam in particular, Vizag in particular, why the government is going ahead with this data center project is because there is a sort of a history of how the state was split, say, I think about 10 years back, where they lost Hyderabad, which was an IT center, which is IT, sort of the second largest IT center in India. The state lost that. And, the state was split into 2 parts, and this Andhra Pradesh, where Vizag is situated, did not have this particular the IT industry anymore. So one of the reasons why the reporting initially was so euphoric was sort of that, okay, this is going to build a new IT hub. But the thing about data centers that we have, which reporting all around the world, but also we examined, I think more than 150 environmental clearances. Data centers employ very, very few jobs. A typical 100 megawatt data center will say employ 100 people, of which maybe half of them will be, say, security and cleaning staff, and the remaining will be just to operate the data centers themselves. A 1 gigawatt may be, say, optimistically you can say is maybe 1,000 employees, as opposed to an IT center which uses a fraction. I mean, and by a fraction I mean, like, say, 50 megawatts is also too high for an IT, for a software company. It would imply, say, 8,000 people or 10,000 people, with the same resources. So, I think one of the things that we need to look at is why are all these companies building data centers in India? I think it's access to cheap power, very sort of favorable regulatory environment, and essentially no benefits to the wider economy. I mean, there is no, I think, multiplier effect that you would see, say, something with the IT services industry, which, in turn, I mean, because it employs so many people, in turn it fuels, local restaurants or, the cabs and, real estate and, all of those. But the data center doesn't provide any of that. It is just, and the politicians stole these. I mean, I think initially they were saying, 100,000 jobs and 50,000 jobs. We're throwing these numbers up, but I mean, our environmental clearance analysis clearly shows that jobs are extremely low. I think Amazon, every 10 million, I think.
So Amazon, we looked at 6 data centers, Amazon data centers. 4 of them are near Hyderabad, and 2 near Mumbai. And these 6 Amazon data centers, they require 118 hectares of land and 3.94 billion US dollars in investment. And totally, all the 6 projects put together create 929 jobs. So that's so it basically means that Amazon requires 4.2 million US dollars to create one data center job in India.
And we are also foregoing a lot of the taxes. I mean, the government has announced tax holidays for 20 years, 30 years for a lot of these data centers. So, I mean, we're not really making any, not creating jobs. We are losing out on tax revenues for at least substantial periods of time.
Yeah.
So what exactly is, I mean, there needs to be at least sort of a cost benefit analysis in terms of the utility of these projects. And I think these are what, a lot of the citizens are asking about, what, I mean, a lot of the protests, especially in and around Vizag right now, are talking about these things, what are these sort of, and the suppression of these debates, I think, is not good. We need to really sort of flesh out, at least go in with full knowledge of what are the compromises that we are making, even if we are building on it or something. And I think that's something that the internet...
Sorry. I was asking if I can take a moment to add something while we are on the topic of cost-benefit analysis. So, so in cost-benefit analysis, the data centers or all AI infrastructure right now is being sold on 2 major promises, revenue creation and job creation. And both are kind of bunkum, total bunkum. Because when Google data center was proposed in Vizag, the biggest of its kind in India so far, and now Meta has announced a big one, but right now, from the information that's available, the Google one in Vizag looks the biggest still. So they talked about how 15 billion US dollars were being invested in India, and that's massive. And then the state quickly announced massive incentives for the project. It included discounted land prices, tax exemptions, and subsidies on power and water. And if we put all of these incentives together, that comes to 1/4 of total Google investment. So basically, Google is getting back 1/4 of what they're investing just in terms of state incentives. And if they're hidden costs, we don't know about them yet. And Andhra Pradesh happens to be currently the highest revenue deficit among all Indian states. So for a state in such deep debt, does it make sense to extend this kind of incentives? If you are doing that, there must be some benefits in return, and jobs don't show that. And to add to all of that, then the Indian government in the latest budget in February announced a tax holiday until 2014 for all foreign data centers on Indian soil. And they did not have any condition on job creation. They did not have any condition that these data centers had to serve India. They can serve customers anywhere globally, but in Indian customers have to be served through an Indian reseller. That's all. Okay. Sorry, I took a lot of time.
I think the response, the government and the public response to the stories would have been the same if these hyperscale data centers were built in affluent, higher caste areas.
So one person in the video that is the reel was blocked does ask the exact same question. He's like, why Dalit lands? Don't other castes have land too?
Okay, just to open it up to Naman and about like how, I know you can't say much about how the case is going, but just what explanation has been provided so far for the block? Are you able to discuss that?
I think we have said enough by discussing that there is a case. Okay, moving on. I think we need to understand the wider, broad powers central government sort of exercises against journalists. I think journalists face a lot of issues like Monica and Shamsheer, both of them are facing while doing a bona fide news report, which is essential to bring out these facts on data centers, how that it is cast test and everything. And I think it's important that we create this awareness because even though I am not that expert on land law in India, but I know that Land Acquisition Act describes hard limitations to challenge sort of the compensation they are getting. And I am doing one of the matters in Delhi where the farmers are going through the same issues where they could not appeal at the right time because they did not find a counsel. So therefore, uh, journalist job becomes so much more essential to bring out these news. Uh, Coming back to the blocking regime Indian government exercises, I think it's important that as a council who work in this type of subject, I will give some sort of background how blocking regimes was started and how it is now. I won't take more than 2 minutes, so allow me. I won't take Monica and Shamshi's time at all. So moving on. So in 2000, an IT Act was passed in India, where the Section 79 was a safe harbor provision. Now, why am I talking about Section 79 is essential because I will going to link it right now. How government is using this provision. So now Section 79 is a sort of safe harbor provision. Now, safe harbor is that intermediaries are not responsible for the content or anything put on their page or their social media. For example, Facebook is not responsible if I am posting something, right? So this is a safe harbor provision. Now, in I think 2008, after 8 years, Indian government passed an IT Act Amendment 2008, where they introduced a provision known as Section 69A. Now, Section 69A demonstrates the blocking powers. Now, these blocking powers are different because while doing that next year, now we know whenever there's an act, there's a procedural rules behind it to exercise that substantive power. Next year they released blocking rules 2009, which talks about how MITI is Ministry of Information Technology in India. I will refer it as MITI from now on. So MITI sort of exercises blocking powers on the internet. Now, blocking rules 2009 has sort of two ways MITI can block your content, which is under Rule 8, which is a normal blocking. For example, if I want to block something, a content of Monica, so I will first give a notice to Monica that, hey, I'm going to block this. Please come, give your defense. And then I will decide upon it. And then I will give a final blocking order. Now, this is the very good scenario. Indian government do not follow this at all. The second is emergency blocking. I think something is so essential that it should be stopped right now. So I will exercise that power, and then within 48 hours, I'll have to give a review sort of meeting to the publisher. Now, as you can see, there are lots of defenses on it. Lots of defenses a journalist have. First of all, MITI have to give a notice and give a pre-decisional hearing before doing anything. Now, very important case I'm going to discuss. In 2015, Shreya Singhal versus Union of India was filed to challenge this regime. And this regime was constitutionally scrutinized by a division bench of the Supreme Court of India. Now, the Supreme Court of India laid down 4 to 5 things. First of all, they said Section 69A is a constitutionally valid power if it has the valid safeguards. All right. Second, you cannot block anything until unless it sort of violates Article 19.2. Now, Article 19.2 is of Indian Constitution is uh, when you can stop freedom of speech and expression. All right. So Article 19 is talks about certain freedoms. One of them freedom is freedom of speech and expression. Now, how are you going to stop it? There are 6 to 7 things under which you can stop a freedom of speech and expression. For example, it can be friendly nation, friendly relations with the state, public order, defamation, or you're violating any case. Now, Shreya's single judgment basically said you cannot stop anyone from posting anything without those essential safeguards, and a sort of concrete the difference between section 79 and section 69A powers. Now, till 2015, the story is clear. We know that you cannot block anything without the safeguards. Now, the interesting things, okay, so after that, Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India case happened, famously known as, I think, the Kashmir case, the 2G Kashmir case, where the Supreme Court said the Shreya Singhal is correct on law and we are going to follow that. You cannot stop freedom of speech and expression or any other fundamental rights without the essential safeguards. And then now, while we were doing post 2023 blocking cases, where the mighty was not exercising powers properly. For example, they were not giving pre-decisional hearing to the publisher, which becomes an issue because I don't know why my content is getting blocked. I am not getting any notification, any order. For example, if you are getting arrested, we have to tell you, right? Why are you getting arrested, on what charges? So on what charges your content is getting blocked, you may not really know because the government is not telling you that. Now, why I am saying 2023 year become a pivotal year, because in 2023, MITI issued an office memorandum saying that directing all central ministries and Director General of Police to exercise Section 79 3B power. Now, you are noticing a pattern here. Indian government is trying to create another block, another sort of procedure to block content online. Now, this Section 79 3B, Monica and Shamsher are also victim of the Section 79 3B powers. Now, the issue with Section 79 3B powers is that we do not really know which government, which police, or which institution is issuing that blocking. So sort of, for example, I am in Delhi. Now, if Kerala police is blocking my sort of news or news publishing or a blog, I cannot not know. Sometimes they publish, for example, Uttarakhand police has issued publicly that they are blocking this Twitter accounts. But what cases recently I have done, I think I have done around 5 or 6, where the police did not tell us what is happening and who is blocking and which police station is blocking, which state is blocking. So now the issue with the journalist is, even they have less resources. Now the resources are so much more less because India is so wide. There are different 29 high courts. Which high court you must approach to? So now there is one step. You will first approach for example, if you are in Delhi, you will approach Delhi High Court. Then Delhi High Court will tell you, okay, you move to this concerned authority jurisdiction, and then you will go to that jurisdiction, and then your case will go on, go on, go on, go on. I think the famous line we all see in criminal law, now we are seeing in civil law, which is the procedure becomes a punishment. Now the journalists are facing the procedure as a punishment, even though the Supreme Court is sort of talking about great powers. Article 19.1 is so important. Freedom of speech and expression is so vital. for the democracy. But now the issue is like recently, why I'm saying this, because in 2023, Indian Supreme Court of India passed Kaushal Kishore judgment, where they said ki how important freedom of speech and expression is. This is so dear to us. The democracy is very important. But again, journalist is facing issues such as the blocking regime. Now the blocking regime is one, and this is the good case scenario. If you're getting a blocking, that's a very good thing for journalists, because the worse is a defamation suit or a criminal prosecution under sedition charges. As a lawyer who's representing journalists, I am representing journalists facing defamation cases, journalists facing sedition charges in different high courts, different states altogether. So now they have to go from one place to another. Now what is happening? Their work is suffering. Their mentally toll is suffering. They cannot do their work properly. When they cannot do their work properly, ultimately their freedom of speech and expression is going down. And whatever Supreme Court is saying, the great jurisprudence our Supreme Court judges has created is just illusory. There is nothing on ground. And as lawyers who represent these things, I know this is the reality. Now, what Monica and Shamsher are facing, they are facing 79 3B blocking. This is one of the blockings. Now they do not know. As their counsels, I have advised them to first talk to the concerned ministries, ki at least tell us which court or police or who blocked my content. At least tell me that. Now, after the 2023 office memorandum, what every state and ministry started doing is they started issuing notification to their state concerned ministries that you can issue blocking under section 79 3B. Now they issued, after that they issued sort of nodal councils, nodal officers to each concerned ministry. We mail them nodal council ki, hey, this is happening with me, my content is blocked, have you blocked it? You will not get any answer, by the way. Most of the time what I am facing is, we recently did sort of 7 to 8 blocking cases where we got a very good relief, where the High Court said you deserve the order of blocking, plus a procedure has to be followed. I have a constitutional court's order in my hand, but still MIT is saying we are not going to follow it. We are not going to give you the blocking order. We have filed contempt cases against them, by the way. Both of them are pending before the High Court. This is the issue we are facing. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry if I went on.
No, I mean, it's a valid response when you see, I guess at this point, post 2023, especially now, just the mask not even being bothered to be put on, and like, well, these we're just not going to, we're just no. That can be very infuriating. So I do want to open this up to all the lovely participants who came, and I'm sure have a lot of questions. If you have a question, you can start raising your hand, just so I also know like how much time we have to allot. But before that, Janvi, I want to ask you, I guess, do you see a broader pattern in terms of the topics being covered that are being censored as well? Like, what topics are there that usually face these suits?
Interesting question. Thank you, Clarissa, for asking the question. I am unsure how to answer the question because there's a broad array of topics that are being blocked at the moment. It's not always confined to, let's say, critique of the government. While it's higher, yes, there are always also various topics that do get blocked that are defamatory, copyrighted, or within the ambit of that, which means that even if it's a critique of the government, it is being taken down under, let's say, copyright violations. So data collected is, I won't say the most accurate in that sense, because the how do I say that when it is tabularized or when it is reported, it would then say that, well, blocking was done to protect people from protect a copyright holder from their violations being held. So that is one thing. Second thing is taking down under defamation. So while yes, it could be very valid critique of a public authority, it would be considered defamatory in nature and be
Sorry,
taken.
let me just rephrase my question. I don't think I worded it correctly. But is there like a broader pattern of these online content restrictions around technology or infrastructure or land rights or environmental issues
I
that you
mean,
see?
thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so I think the broader pattern would then look like this, which is that while content is being taken down in small silos, the broadly, if you look at it, it is mostly critique of large institutions, governments. So this I could say is a broader pattern in that sense. When it comes to data centers and blocking of content around data centers, there's a broader pattern around it as well, because everywhere where governments have proposed building of data centers or an arrangement between a private entity and a government entity to be made to establish a data center in particular areas, what is happening is that there are widespread protests going on. People are like, there is an understanding within the citizenry that data centers in itself are harmful for the environment and have various different harms that could be caused to the environment that they are living in at that moment. So there is wider dissatisfaction around this as well. So I think the blocking of this particular content is also within that ambit of within that broader ambit. If I hope I'm answering the question correctly, or I have understood the question correctly. Yeah.
If Clarissa, if it's okay, if I also try.
Oh, yes,
Okay,
please.
so
I'm
what
not
I
seeing any raised hands so far, so go on. And if anyone has a question, raise your hand.
so what I think what I'm noticing is anything critical to the government is getting blocked. For example, recently what I have seen, parody accounts are getting blocked, and when we go to interministerial committee meetings, committee meeting is where before getting blocked or after getting your content blocked, you will go to IMC, sit with Mighty, and then they will give a final order. So I have attended that with our client. What I'm noticing is uh, it's quite funny sometimes. They are even blocking the memes critical to Modi, or sorry, Honorable Prime Minister Modi. Or for example, like we have seen, there is one famous website known as the media publishing house known as Anand Viketin Group. They published a comic sort of influence on Indian government by United States of America, and they blocked the whole website, saying that it's against and it's violating friendly nations with other foreign states. Now, I don't know how comic artists are creating this issue. They are ruining the friendly relations with other states. Maybe Trump is texting our honorable Prime Minister Modi, ki, hey, what are your government is doing? I'm increasing tariff now. So this is quite ridiculous what the mighty is doing right now these days. I mean, other than laughing, we can't really do anything. Yeah, that's as a litigation lawyer, that's the pattern what I have noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, well, I suppose I was going to ask this. I imagine a lot of people are wondering it as well, which is like, what can our participants do And maybe even for Monica and Shamsher and Naman and Janvi, just kind of like examining how we ourselves are interacting with these tech giants and their products. And at this point, the political has become personal. How do you navigate that tension? How can we embody it in our individual lives? I guess to deal with the sense of helplessness.
Clarissa, are you asking that if we are questioning data centers, do we continue to use services that are provided by data centers? Is that what you are asking in a nutshell?
Yeah, it's a very broad question, but how do you navigate the tensions between these tech giants that we are reporting on and also our personal interactions with them?
Okay, got it. So journalism per se, and our journalism, I can say with a lot more confidence, is not about branding things good or bad. We are just here to ask questions. And we are asking questions about, is this fair? Are the due processes followed? What processes are followed? And how things are done? Show me answers to these. And that's it. Another thing is, a lot of people have made fun of these. And do you not see the irony in it that reel talking about data centers is on Instagram and is going viral and things like that? We've heard things like, if we are talking about power, which is largely in India, largely coal-based power, if we talk about just transition or against coal dependency, we do not stop using power. We do not stop drinking water because we are talking about water consumption. We do not stop using clothes because we are talking about irregularities or criminalities involved in the supply chain. We are asking questions. We are asking for fairness and transparency and accountability. That's what we are trying to do. I hope that answers it.
Does anyone else want to add?
Um,
If not, Rachna Verma seems to have a question. Please, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Hi, am I audible? Yeah. Hi, Monica. Hi, Shamsher. First of all, congratulations. This was a very great story. However, I haven't read it, but thanks for sharing the link. I have a couple of questions, and I'll start slow, but I'll sum up my questions quickly. First question is that what was the first lead you investigate when it comes to the data centers, and second, I want to know that how much difficulty you have obtained while working on this project from the official channel, like did they help you, like did you approach to Google, or like what kind of agencies you have approached? And third question is, what are the key questions about this data center project that remain unanswered? So yeah.
Shimshi, do you want to go?
Sure. So, yeah, let me, so I will recall your first question was how did we sort of achieve
Yeah,
these
what was the
particular.
first lead, what you investigated, when it comes to the first lead, how you pick up the first lead?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a collaborative project. The Environmental Reporting Collective is reporters from across the world, and this was a collaborative effort in terms of looking at how data centers are working in. I mean, outside of the sort of the Western, I mean, of the US and China, how are these data centers working? And so we were looking at the Indian ones, and I mean, so in terms of the Google one was a very obvious one because, see, I think as of last year, I mean, from what I remember, as of last year, I think our total capacity of data centers was 1.5, 1.3 gigawatts. And here was the company that was coming and saying that, we will build, and these are like spread across at least 3 cities, somewhere Bombay, Chennai, some in Delhi and couple in Pune. And like all of them put together was about 1.3 gigawatts. And here was one company which was coming and saying that we are going to build, a 1 gigawatt, which is sort of 70 to 80% of our total capacity. And subsequent to that, of course, we've had, I think, probably 10 to 15 gigawatts of projects that are being announced. Okay, now the obvious in impulse for this sort of build out is, of course, AI. Monica was talking earlier about how people talking about how you're using these platforms for that use data centers like Instagram or Twitter for propagating your stories about data centers. But these are a different class of data centers. In a typical data center, for instance, you would have, say, a server rack which consumes 5 to 10 watts, whereas the AI ones consume about 20 times that. And then, of course, these are even much bigger. Earlier, what you would see is there's a building in an urban neighborhood which would hold the data center. Now you need to acquire hundreds of acres of land to host these data centers. So, of course, the scale, the AI is sort of driving these sort of build-outs. I think that was sort of our first sort of lead in terms of this thing. And then we also looked at environmental clearances. If you go to the Ministry of Environment, they do. It's a little bit complicated to dig out some of the clearances, but you can dig out and see exactly what they're promising, what are the sort of environmental conditions that. So that is sort of our needs. How we picked particular data centers. So we mapped all of these data centers, with the help of ERC also, and we identified. So we found one particular data center in Mumbai, which was actually being built on the just right next to a slum, which receives water once a week. I think drinking water once a week, and then water otherwise, I think once in 2 days.
They buy drinking water. This is non-potable water that they get sporadically.
So I think the mapping helped us a lot because we could then identify, where exactly these data centers were placed and what are the neighboring conditions. And this has been one of the hottest summers, I think, in many years in India. We are actually now seeing reports of power cuts in Mumbai, which I think, as somebody from Bangalore who's used to power cuts, regularly, but we always used to hear that, okay, Bombay never has power cuts. This summer, you have had massive power cuts in Mumbai. It's so hot that, people are people in slums are now going and sleeping at night on the beaches because it's so hot. And they're blaming, air conditioning for it. But the power consumption that air conditioning uses versus the power consumption that, these data centers which are being rolled out. There are 400 megawatt data centers, 300 megawatt data centers that's coming up in Mumbai. Where is all this power coming from, and what does that mean for the future of power in big cities like Mumbai, Chennai, for instance? So we used those were sort of our I think the environmental clearances that helped us sort of map where all these data centers are. That sort of also helped us.
I think you're trying to say that putting a human face to it. We have all heard that data centers use massive amounts of water, power, land. Who is bearing those costs? I think that was the first thing that we had in our minds, because when Google was also announced, they were talking about, at that point, they were talking about 480 acres of land. Now it has gone more than 600 acres of land. Who is losing this land? In India, who is happily giving up their land? And where if there is millions of liters of, or even kiloliters of water going, is somebody losing water? Because we definitely are a severely water scarce country. We have 18% of world's population and 4% of world's water. We are in a really grim scenario. So for this water to be allocated to one facility, somebody has to lose out. We just have to go find who this somebody is. And mapping these data centers, as Shamshir said, is how we found exactly who might be losing out. Like in Maharashtra, we went to, we visited sites of 2 proposed dams. So Mumbai is famously dependent on water from outside Mumbai. Very little of Mumbai's water is actually procured from within the city. It comes mostly from protected areas of Western Ghats and neighboring districts. And in such a situation, when we go for water-intensive infrastructure, where is the water coming from? People were asking questions in indigenous Adivasi areas. They are against it, and these projects are being pushed through. And people are saying, why should I die to quench Mumbai's thirst? So those are the questions we were asking too.
Yeah. And I really liked the answer you gave earlier, which is like, as journalists, your job isn't to go, is something good or bad, but to look like specifically into the details and the transparency. And it is a very neoliberal, I guess, hyper-individualistic response to go, oh, okay, how are you personally engaging in this system? Like blaming the farmers, blaming the people for selling off their land for the pennies, or blaming people for using platforms that they're forced onto, rather than what material goals are we collectively fighting for, which is why I really like Shayji's question. So what can the average person living in an urban environment who feels strongly about the environmental impact of these data centers do to try and create any sort of public large-scale awareness? Maybe even more than awareness at this point, right? But like, how can we collectively organize? So Shay, just where are you based, I guess? And Monica, Shamshir, if you have any connections or any tips or advice, or be like, check this organization out, that would be great. And then we have one more question from Manok Nia. I am so sorry if I butcher your name, and then please let me know how I can pronounce it. LS Warapu, what are some environmental regulatory loopholes that big tech companies are exploiting in building these massive data centers in India? Sorry, that was a lot, just to be mindful of time, yeah.
Is it okay if I take the second one first? So environmental regulatory loopholes. I think loopholes are when something is left by mistake and somebody very smartly comes and uses it. Here, I think a lot of our regulatory procedures are designed in a way to be exploited. A lot of things are said unsaid or in gray areas. So the data center environmental clearances, and right now Google is going through that process, and there is a lot of public outcry about it. So people in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana can probably check out Human Rights Forum. Shay, you could also probably check Human Rights Forum is actively leading some campaign, especially on environmental impacts of these data centers. So the cooling technology and the water consumption is one of the biggest areas where which is criticized, and that's something that's not clear in environmental clearances that are given in India, and it's bizarre. The pollution control, there are massive power backups in India. That's diesel generator sets, and the diesel requirement and the concentration of these diesel generator sets, that's one thing that is declared but never questioned in the clearances. So those are some obvious ones. Then the biggest one is looking at each project in isolation. Even the Google project has been broken into 3 parts for environmental clearances purposes. It beats me. I mean, we understand why, because the smaller projects can be categorized in India as B2 category, and you do not need a full environmental impact assessment, which has to go through the central ministry and needs a longer procedure. So if you break them in smaller segments, I think, yeah, that would be the biggest one for me. Categorizing most data centers in B2 category, but we hadn't seen one as big as the Google one. So what they have done is it was announced as one project, but physically in 3 different locations. Now they have broken them down for environmental clearance purposes alone in 3 different projects, three different special purpose vehicles, so that they can fit into B2 category, and the environmental clearances are easier because they are then it's a shorter route and done at the state level. The groundwater data is never looked at. A lot of environmental clearances, they say they are getting water from the public resources or groundwater or the local municipality. Do they have the capacity for it? Also, as these infrastructures are getting bigger in scale, the hyperscale ones is not only about the shortage of supply, it's also about lopsided supply. If you put massive infrastructures in one part of the city, the inequity which Indian cities already see in utility supplies, that's going to worsen, is what we can sort of predict. And what every individual can do, I really don't have the answer to it. I guess what I was trying to say earlier and what Clarissa was also responding to is that we want transparency and accountability, and then to each their own. You make your own decision. And I think that is why Clarissa was also asking where you're based, so that what you can do and in you want to contribute. If you are a researcher, if you are a lawyer, if you are a content creator, you can sort of contribute in different ways, depending on what feels right, and not because I said so.
There is one thing I would like to mention about the regulatory loopholes. I think IFF has filed a RTI to try Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, asking the sort of what is the environmental impacts of data centers. Now that RTI is sent to MITI, which has created sort of, I think, policy in 2020. Janvi, would you like to add our work there? Yeah, please.
We got a response for that, and basically
Okay.
that they do not they do not have an answer when we asked various questions on what are the environmental impact assessments that you have done. And for that, the response was that we don't have that information with us. So we have appealed it. Let's see how it goes.
Furthermore, I think there is one National Green Tribunal in India. Usually they take suo moto cognizance whenever they hear news of there is a violation of environment somewhere. I don't know. I did not check it whether they have taken suo moto cognizance on it based on a news report, but usually NGT does this. Or I think what we can explore is a possibility filing a case before National Green Tribunal, telling them about this. I am not aware of this in much detail, but I think, yeah, that would be the right recourse. The loopholes can be like, I think there is no loopholes as such they are violating. They are just violating laws in general. I think everyone must read on the EPR certificates. Usually big techs violate, or there is some sort of I think recently Central Pollution Control Board of India found 6 lakh fake EPR certificates sort of bypassing environment laws in India. So the situation is dire that way as well. Yeah, thank you. That's I just wanted to say.
Yeah, Shamsher, Janvi, do you have anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up? Just to the last question or this question. Abhishek asks if there is any kind of regular meeting point or study working group looking critically at data centers in India.
Um, I'm unsure if we'll be meeting every week. However, IFF has been working a little bit around data centers and trying to assess their impact and seeing how, basically, what is the regulatory power or what is the approach that the government is taking in order to operationalize data centers in India. The first step towards that was that one of our colleagues, Indumugi, she published a fact sheet and did intensive research at one point to figure out to figure out the government's approach on data centers. I can link it below, for somebody who's interested in studying about this. Other than that, I think there are also with respect to regulatory framework in India, as already mentioned by Monica and even Shamsher and Naman as well, that it is quite open, which means that there are no loopholes per se. The government in itself is taking an investment approach, which means that they really want data center investments within India and build on this. This could also be related to the fact that there is a disproportionate demand for AI, and that is why now data centers are being incentivized, as already also mentioned by somebody, that there's a 20-year tax holiday for data centers in India. So that's enough incentive for any large corporation or company even to want to open one data center in India, while, like, because it's so friendly in that sense. Any journalistic activity around it is taken down. So in that way, any corporation would look at it as with very friendly eyes. That is what my interpretation is. Yeah, that's from my side. I was very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Monica, Shamsher, Naman. I learned a lot from you guys today. And thank you, Clarissa, for being such a great host. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will be emailing everyone afterwards. So you will be able to get Naman, Janvi, Monica, and Shamsher's contact details. For those who aren't familiar with Environmental Reporting Collective, we are a global collective of investigative environmental journalists based in the Global South. So that is our reporting slant and perspective. This coming June 30th, we are going to have ERC's Office Hours Mental Health Edition, where we bring on two people who are experts in their field for liberatory psychology and also equitable journalism and workplaces. So it's less of a structured format like this one and more where you come and you already have your question, you already have your project, and you discuss it. And if you liked this session, our next episode on data centers is going to be on July 10th. This one is going to be in covering data center spillover in Asia with Thailand and journalists who reported in that area. And if you're not following us already on social media, you can look up, is it ERC Investigate? Yeah, just look up Environmental Reporting Collective. We will be there.